My name is Bridget Wilson. Before I begin, I'd like us to start with a Hail Mary. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. All right. Hi, again, this is Bridget Wilson. I am a Star of Mary, graduated 2013 from Franciscan University with a history degree. I have a little bit of solidarity, if I do say so myself, with the Twinkle class in terms of waiting to kind of finally get to join Stella. When I was a freshman, way back in 2009, my sister Erin was a junior, and she was in Stella, and we're super close, so naturally, I checked out Stella, and I fell in love. And I vividly remember my spring semester, when I decided that I was going to intent, running up the stairs in Tommy to the second floor to find the coordinator, and as I was running up the stairs, I fell on the stairs right outside the door. Like, my whole body was just laying there, splat, along the stairs. Split second later, out walks the coordinator, and she looked at me, and I looked up at her, and I just went, I have to talk to you. So I got up, and she knew exactly what I was there for, and we went and we chatted about it, and I shared with her that, you know, I think I was a little bit worried that I was just following in my sister's footsteps and that I only wanted to join Stella because she was in it. And she shared something with me that I thought was really interesting. She told me that often people who were raised in the same home have similar spiritualities. So it's actually really normal to be drawn to the same household as a sibling or even a close friend. So I'm sure many of you have, your groups of friends joined, or your older sisters or younger sisters have joined. And I just think that's a really cool connection that we can have with our family, that we can also share household. But anyway, I loved it, and it totally quieted that sort of worry that I had about joining household, and I felt really confident with my decision to move forward and intent. And I was all set to intent that fall. But then, over the summer, I decided that I wasn't going to return to Franciscan University. I was actually going to drop out and go to art school, which I did. I dropped out. Spoiler alert, I did not end up going to art school. For like a year, I took community classes just to kind of stay on track and to build up a portfolio so I could apply to an art program. But throughout that entire time, I just really missed Franciscan, and I was just so sad that I wasn't able to join Stella. So I did end up coming back to Franciscan the spring of my junior year. And as soon as I was accepted back into the school, I emailed the coordinator at the time, and I told her that even though she didn't know me, that I was joining Stella. So finally, the spring of my junior year, I was able to be a Star of Mary. My sister wasn't there, and I wasn't joining with any girls I knew. And there was only a few girls who were in house at the time that I knew my freshman year. So I really was going into it very alone, and it was interesting because before I was worried that I was, joining it, because I wanted to be with people I knew well. But, it turned out that really it was just a household that I was meant to be part of. It ended up being the best. The girls I joined with were awesome. I had the best intent class. I reconnected with my old friends from freshman year who were there, and I made a bunch of new friends during intensity, and they're still some of my closest friends to this day. So my experience with Stella has just been wonderful, and I'm so glad that I get to be here and share this talk with you. That's just a little glimpse of my experience with Stella. So my topic for this talk is on divine wisdom and divine purity. And divine wisdom, that really feels so loaded to me. And I've spent the last 2 weeks or so reflecting on what I was going to say, and on so many occasions I experienced this crazy amount of imposter syndrome, which is kind of unnerving for me because I tend to be a pretty confident person, but all I could think about was the incredible women who had recorded their talks before me and the talks that would come after mine, and just kind of how forgettable mine would be. So many of them are basically experts at giving talks and sharing their testimony and have such beautiful and profound things to say. They're artists and they're poets, and they have blogs and podcasts, and they're part of these ministries, and they're amazing. And here I am. I consider myself to be a pretty lackluster speaker, so what on earth could I possibly have to offer or say? But through all these self-doubts, another thing was repeating over and over again, and you're probably familiar with this phrase. It was, comparison is the thief of joy. Even then, this phrase would come through, and it would hit me like a pile of bricks. But I brushed it off because, well, it's cliche. And it isn't profound, and no one will quote me or be amazed that I came up with something that shook them to their core, which is just so silly. But anyway, I was thinking, how could I possibly connect this to divine wisdom at all? But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. What is divine wisdom? Well, it isn't knowledge, it isn't experience, it's the desire to seek the divine and to accept the will of God. Okay, great, got it. So bounce back to the message that comparison is the thief of joy. What I was saying to myself was that since I'm not a great speaker, and I don't come up with this beautiful prose, that what I have to say isn't worth saying at all. So why should I bother? And I realized how much I let this affect my prayer life. I apply that same criticism to how I approach God, and that if I can't speak to him in the way these other great Catholics can, is it even good enough for him? I know I won't be the next John Paul II or the next St. Therese. And so by comparing myself to these others, it was robbing me of the joy that I could experience for my own unique relationship with God. Well, divine wisdom is a Marian virtue for a reason, right? So let's turn to Mary in the Gospels and see what we can learn. But because the issue is comparing our spoken words, at least for me it is, I want to focus on the moments Mary says nothing at all and what divine wisdom we can find in those specific moments. In fact, Mary only speaks on about 4 occasions in the Gospels, which includes the Annunciation, her visit with Elizabeth, finding Jesus in the temple, and the wedding feast at Cana. But we know there are so many more moments where Mary was present and yet no words are spoken. The Nativity is actually a really great place to start. So take a moment and think about that scene. We can picture the famous manger scene with the sheep and the shepherds and a tired and dusty Joseph and Mary and a little baby boy sleeping in the hay. But in this moment, we have the first instance of adoration of the body of Christ. And Mary sat there in the stillness and she pondered this in her heart. And in the silence, she was seeking the divine. Which is just, it's beautiful. Nothing was said. She was just seeking the divine. So next, we'll jump way forward and we'll consider the crucifixion. And at this moment, it was the first time Mary held the lifeless body of her son in her arms. And again, no words were spoken. And so if we decide to contemplate this scene further, we can imagine what Mary was going through and what was going through her mind and her heart. And I like to imagine that her hands were just gripping his body tightly, and her heart was pounding, and her ears were ringing as they drowned out any noise that was surrounding her. And I just imagine she felt this intense sorrow, but I also believe she had a deep understanding of the purpose of this pain, that her beloved son had died for us, and that we were saved by the sacrifice, and she would be seeing him again soon. Again, no words were spoken. Mary had nothing profound to say at this moment, but her actions and her thoughts show us what deep wisdom she held in that moment. So if I can kind of bring it all back together, if we compare ourselves to others, because we may not be given the gift of prose and poetry and these beautiful words to say, it can deprive us of the joy that is to be found in simply being with the Lord. So don't let comparison and imposter syndrome or whatever else keep you from seeking the divine. There is wisdom to be found in the moments you choose to spend quietly with our Lord. Now, where would this talk be if I didn't wrap it up with at least one quote? This is from St. John of the Cross, and he says, "Our greatest need is to be silent before this great God with the appetite and the tongue, for the only language he hears is the silent language of love." Honestly, I could have just read that quote instead of saying anything else, because it sums it up so well. So my challenge, ladies, is to spend time with God this week. Give him one day, or every day, 5 minutes, or an hour, whatever you can do. And if you can go to a church adoration, even better. And just sit with him. You aren't talking to him. You actually aren't even attempting to listen to him. You're just being. Be with him like Mary was at his birth and at his death. Okay, part 2, divine wisdom. I have a small confession to make. When I agreed to do this talk, I originally only registered that I was doing divine wisdom, and I completely glazed over divine purity. So my sincerest apologies, this talk is coming later than the regularly scheduled talks, but this is why I'll never be a professional at this. Okay, moving on. I really didn't want to leave it out, so I did want to talk a bit about divine purity and offer you an additional challenge. So thank you in advance for giving me a few more minutes of your time. For starters, I think it's so easy to talk about divine purity in the context of sexuality, and rightly so, but I did want to talk about other aspects of divine purity just a little bit. Mary was pure in all ways. She was pure of heart, and this virtue made it easy for her to follow God's will in ways that may be more complicated for us. And this might be kind of a silly example, but weirdly the legends of King Arthur have been on my mind. I can't really explain it. And Sir Galahad specifically was one of the knights of the Round Table, and he was known as Sir Galahad the Pure. He was pure of heart. So there's this poem about Sir Galahad by Tennyson, and the first stanza goes like this. My good blade carves the casques of men, my tough lance thrust is sure. My strength is as the strength of 10, because my heart is pure. And I seriously love this. He has the strength of 10 men, because his heart is so pure. Also, Galahad was a knight. He was a warrior on a mission, looking for the Holy Grail, actually. And purity was a better weapon than his sword. It was his pure heart that actually gave him the strength he needed to properly use the weapons at his disposal. And I really don't know much else about the Knights of the Round Table. I think they were all probably dogs. So Galahad is the only one we probably can ever compare to the Virgin Mary. Okay, so like Galahad was a warrior, we know that we're warriors in Mary's army, and these virtues are armor that defend us. And divine purity can become the base by which all the other virtues grow stronger, because you have purified your heart to make room to listen to God's will in all things, what he's calling us towards, what our mission is, our vocation, even our cross. So your next challenge, just dwelling on these things a little bit, and you can literally do this challenge for the rest of your life if you're cool with that, is at any moment where you feel weak or when you feel you need strength, ask our Lord and Mary's intercession for an increase in divine purity, and I promise you will find the strength you need to continue. So that's all I have for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this talk. I'd like to ask Our Lady, Star of the Sea, to pray for us. Amen. Thank you so much, ladies. I hope you have a great week.